out there in radio land, you are visiting with me. I would like to dedicate this program today to the nurses, wherever you are, whether you are RN or LPN or nurses aide. This is your program. So many times we overlook the people in white or pink or green. These are people that have special skills. Not only are they trained for their jobs, but they have hands that are loving hands, that are touching hands. And for fear that some of us have forgotten to say thank you to you nurses, nurses aides, you RNs and LPNs, today is your program. Nurses, we salute you today. This is the Clara Luper radio show. Last night was a beautiful night in Oklahoma City. As members of the Greyhound Club gathered in the beautiful country home of Mr. and Mrs. D. Austin Elliott for a special meeting. It was a special meeting that was filled with excitement, with hope, and with plans. Maybe it was kicked off by a heartwarming prayer by Mr. C.P. Wilson. But maybe it was the presentation by Mr. Lewis Caddy, Vice President of the Greyhound Club of Oklahoma City and President of the Greyhound Club of Grayson, Oklahoma, who brought from the Grayson Hoffman Club in Grayson, Oklahoma and the Grayson Community Club a plan to celebrate the 100th birthday of Mr. Rollie Crisp. Mr. Rollie Crisp, a landmark in the history of Grayson and Hoffman, Oklahoma. On Sunday, May 5th, 1985, Mr. Crisp will celebrate his 100th birthday, and it will be a celebration. And I know many of my friends from Clearview are listening today, especially Olive. But I would like to say to Olive, it will only be in Grayson, Oklahoma, where Grayson will celebrate the birthday of Rollie Crisp. Now, one reason why we're so excited about it, because he's the father of 18 children. I would like to repeat that. Mr. Rollie Crisp will celebrate 100 years of living, and he is the proud father of 18 children. Now, I would like to just tell you about his children: A.J. Crisp, Russell Crisp, who lives in Las Vegas, will be in Grayson on May 5th, Style Crisp of Oklahoma City, Bruce Tompkins of Grayson, Oklahoma, Sterling Crisp of Oklahoma City, Arletha Crisp of Tulsa, Oklahoma, Rui Crisp of Grayson, Oklahoma, Thelma Crisp of Grayson, Oklahoma, Delancey Crisp of Tulsa, Oklahoma, Ollie Mae Crisp of Grayson, Oklahoma, Van Crisp of Tulsa, Oklahoma, Ansel Crisp of Tulsa, Oklahoma, Earl Dean of Grayson, Oklahoma, Louise Crisp of Los Angeles, California, Doris, Danella, and Tony, all of Los Angeles, California. Now, it will be a big celebration. Members of the Greyhound Club from Oklahoma City will form a caravan and go to the Baptist Church in Grayson, Oklahoma. And there they will join in celebrating the 100th birthday of Mr. Rollie Crisp. After the birthday, there will be an old-fashioned dinner on the ground. And I would like to tell Olive of Clearview, Oklahoma, to beat that false story. She just can't do it. And finishing the meeting last night, there was a dinner. It was a celebration dinner because the members of the Greyhound Club crowded the house of Mr. and Mrs. D.A. Elliott. And an old-fashioned country dinner with all of the trimmings was served. or maybe Mabel Mobley probably put it better than all of us. Mabel said, I'm so happy that I'm part of the Grayson family. And today, from all of us, from the Greyhawk Club, we would like to send our thanks to Mr. and Mrs. D. Austin Elliott. Many of you will know Mrs. Elliott as Gladys Caddy from Grayson, Oklahoma. And it was also an election last night. Mrs. Viola Carter was formerly the third vice president of the Greyhawk Club. And last night there was an election held to replace her. Many of you remember in January, Mrs. Viola Tugger passed, and last night, Marie Noel was elected as a third vice president of the Greyhawk Club. The Shepherd Rivers family reunion will be held in Oklahoma City at the Southgate Inn, August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. All of you that are kin to the Shepherds, the Riverses, and off of those trees, we have all kinds of branches, the Hendersons, the Germanys, the Browns, the Lupers. We could go on down the line. But those of you that are related to any member of those two families, please get in contact with us immediately, because you need to make your reservations. We've heard from Shepherds and Riverses from all over the country, and among those that will be coming to Oklahoma City will be Mr. Harold Blow of Wichita Falls, Texas, who came from the Rivers side of the story, Mrs. Cecil Scott from Phoenix, Arizona, all of the Shepherds, David and his entire family from Kansas City, Missouri, and the list grows larger and larger. That, in order to get in contact, to write the Shepherd Rivers Family Reunion, 1111 Northeast 43rd Street here in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Betty Germany, one of the chairpersons of that reunion, say things are really looking good. And speaking of looking good, have you ever analyzed what a child learns during its infancy? That is exactly what Mrs. Gloria Mathis has done. She has analyzed the educational needs, the physical needs of children, and therefore she is proud as she stands back and watches what is being done at Chancellor's Shardina's Daycare Center, located at Northeast 50th and Eastern. That's the center number 1, and that's 1643 Northeast 50th Street and 26. No, wait, now let me get it straight. I'm entitled to one mistake. Charleston's Shardina's Daycare Center is located at 1643 Northeast 50th Street. The telephone number is 424-4656. You will also find Chancellor's Shardina's Daycare Center located at 26 and Northeastern here in Oklahoma City. Now, this daycare center is quite different from others in that it's a 7-day center. And if you want to leave your children somewhere at night where you know they'll be taken care of, all you will have to do is to call Mrs. Gloria Mathis, 424-4656. It's Soul Bazaar time in Oklahoma City. And during the Soul Bazaar, you have an opportunity to show what you are all about. Now, I would like to tell you how excited I am about Soul Bazaar 85. I'm excited because we have some beautiful, talented young ladies that are competing in the Miss Soul Bazaar contest. Deidre Jordan, Lisa Taylor, Leota Johnson, Pamela Norton, Latricia Johnson, Tanya Brown, Poinsetta Miller, Helena Garrett, Tina Marie Ross, Aletha House, LaShonda Lampkins. What a beautiful set. And those of you that have not signed up for Miss Soul Bazaar, this is your last week to do it. The deadline is Tuesday for signing up for Miss Soul Bazaar 85. It is also time for the baby contest. And those of you, and I always want to thank those of you that have already signed up, that your baby will be a part of Soul Bazaar 85. Your baby will have the opportunity to step out on that stage, and if your baby isn't walking, you will have the opportunity to take your baby across the stage in all of his or her glamour. The parade is going to be the best in the history of the Soul Bazaar. Let me tell you why. Do you know Henry Laudermilk? Henry Laudermilk loves motorcycles. He's the president of the Magic Wheels and is the coordinator for the motorcycles for Soul Bazaar 85. Do you know Jerry Todd, who's president of the Zodiac Wheels? Or do you know Ray Hobby of the Dragons? These motorcycle people will be there in flying colors. And you have never seen anything as handsome as those young men on those motorcycles. You haven't seen any motorcycles that shine like those motorcycles. Now that's just the beginning. And if you are associated with a motorcycle club or anything, be sure and call Henry Laudermilk. Derek Platt is coordinating the Gospel Festival for the Soul Bazaar. And Derek tells me that so far he has the following groups that will be participating: Spencer's Interdenominational Choir, Ebenezer's Choir, New Zion JT Choir, the City of Refuge Radio Choir, the Youth Choir of the City of Refuge, the Hallelujah Choir, Christ Temple's Men's Choir, and New Direction. Derek Platt announces the following soloists for Soul Bazaar 85: Teresa Williams, Berna Brown, and Sharon Strickland. Those of you that would like to participate in the gospel part of Soul Bazaar, contact Derek Platt, 842-4080 here in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Out-of-town groups are welcome. Yes, it's time for us to talk Soul Bazaar. What is Soul Bazaar? Soul Bazaar is a business, education, economic development, cultural exchange, health, job fair. It's human relations at its best. It's entertainment. It is a minority sponsor to trade and industry show. This show has brought together for 15 years people of all races, creeds, and colors. The Soul Bazaar, Oklahoma's only trade and industry show sponsored by minorities, Oklahoma's oldest trade and industry show. If you are a queen or a winner of any contest, if you have a drill team, a group, a band, or what have you, we invite you to be a part of the Soul Bazaar. The Soul Bazaar's parade will be on April the 27th. It will start this year 30 minutes earlier. It will start at exactly 10:30. Now, those of you that would like to participate in the parade, be sure and call us, 424-3949, or you may call us here at KAEZ Radio, or you may write Soul Bazaar 85, Post Office Box 14099, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. The Soul Bazaar is known for its exhibitors. And today we would like to invite you to the Soul Bazaar on behalf of OG&E, Medical Center State Bank, a member of FDIC, Coors Beer, Langston University, Langston, Oklahoma, George Keys, your county assessor, Safeway Stores, Dolly Turner, John Aldrich Computer Portraits out of Miami, Florida, the Equitable Life Assurance Society of the United States, Mr. Perkins from New York City, New York, Do More Enterprises from Tulsa, Oklahoma, Joe Coca Pontiac, with Mr. Slim Owens, Broadway Ford Company with Mr. Henderson and Mr. Hornbeck with Bob Moore Cadillac. And those of you that have not signed up And those of you who are ready, you have something that you would like to exhibit. You have something that you would like to show to the public. Do it through the Soul Bazaar 85. Soul Bazaar 85. This is a Clara Luper radio show, and Marilyn has just called to my attention that she and Harold Ford will be there in an all-state booth. Now, those of you that would like to talk to Marilyn, she will be at Soul Bazaar 85. And not only will you talk to Marilyn, you will talk to all of these people that I'm telling you about and shall continue to tell you about this year. We've just left the 27th annual Ebony Fashion Fair. I would like to compliment the Urban League Guild and those that were responsible for bringing the kind of fashions and the kind of entertainment to Oklahoma City. This week, history was made. Sophie, our own Sophie, Miss Black Tulsa, 3 years ago. You remember Sophie Henderson. You remember we called her Sissy, who represented Tulsa in Miss Black, Oklahoma, and came to Oklahoma City and was in the top 10 in the Miss Black Oklahoma pageant. I wanted all of you to know that, but because sometimes it's so easy to forget history. One forget where that someone has to start discovering our young people early. And I would like to salute to Mrs. Elizabeth Mundy, who was responsible for Sophie Henderson in Miss Black, Oklahoma. And I would like to salute Mrs. Letty Ruth Hunter and others that worked with her in Miss Black, Oklahoma. It was not surprising to us when Sissy Henderson became a model for Ebony Fashion Fair. It was gratifying to us, and we followed her career with a great deal of interest. About 2 months ago, she called me and told me she was going to be in the Miss USA pageant. And this is the purpose of starting in pageants, where you can continue to get in different pageants. Just continue to move on up. And it was not surprising to us when Sissy Henderson won $8,000 in cash, $25,000 worth of jewelry, and by winning Miss USA. We would like to ask you, the public, to get behind Sissy Henderson. Many of you are able to fly to Lakeland, Florida to see her perform on May 14th. I would like for you to go. Many of you will write her and congratulate her. And today, as she stood at the Urban League's Fashion Fair, she thanked the people of Oklahoma for supporting her. Because now she represents all of us. All of us, the governor, the senators, the representatives, and the people of Oklahoma. Our best wishes go with Sissy Henderson. And as she goes, she takes with her a bit of all of us. We have not seen the coverage that she deserves. But some way, somehow, we believe that this week we will see her beautiful face on television being interviewed. We will hear her melodious voices on our radio stations. We will read more about Sophie Henderson. If not, we will certainly be disappointed. We would like to encourage all of you to help us find talent, because we cannot even imagine where our young people can go if we will get behind them. And that's why I want you to support Miss Black Oklahoma City, May 4th. Miss Black Oklahoma City, May 4th, will star the following: Shirley's Lovelace, Theresa Edwards, Cynthia Moore, Cynthia Smiley, Michelle Washington, Ludi Marie Arias, and Kim Daniels. Those of you out in Radio Land, prepare for Miss Black Oklahoma City, May 4th, which will be held at the Kirkpatrick Theater. It will start at exactly 7:30 p.m. The winner of the pageant will represent Oklahoma in the state pageant, which will be June 17th through the 22nd at the Marriott Convention Center. The headquarters will be the Southgate Inn. And Mr. Cleo Fields, the operator of Cleo's Restaurant, says everything is ready. The Miss Black Oklahoma 1985 contestants are Miss Black Altus, Tina Quarles, Miss Black Edmond, Mia Rush, Miss Black Cameron University, Lawton, Oklahoma, Eloise Rayful, Miss Black Spring Lake Park, Rhonda Bruner, Miss Black Langston University, Lynn Foster, Miss Black Oklahoma University, Madeline Pierce, Miss Black Oklahoma State University, Ellen Crutchfield, Miss Black Wewoka, Trina Michelle Davis, Miss Black Putnam City, Patricia R. Hinton, Miss Black Seminole, Deborah Fox, Miss Black Spencer, and I will announce her name later in the show because we're really excited about Miss Black Spencer. Miss Black Chickasha will be selected on April the 20th. Miss Black Ardmore will be selected on May 1st. Miss Black Kiowa County is Gail Dixon. Miss Black Midwest City is Crystal Smith. And once again, I want you to watch for Crystal Smith. She was a contestant in Miss Soul Bazaar, and now she's representing Midwest City. Yes, it's true. Miss Black Spencer is a lovely Dana Kilpatrick. And I want you to watch out for that name, Dana Kilpatrick. We are still looking for Miss Black Dale City. If you're in the Dale City area and you are ready, we are ready for Miss Dale City, Miss Quail Creek, Miss Village. Those of you that are living in that area, certainly we would like to invite you to be a part of Miss Black Oklahoma 1985. Today I'm expecting Dr. Clarence Davis, who told me that he would be here today. And I'm looking for Dr. Clarence Davis, the pastor of a church that I shall tell you the name of later in this show. In the meantime, we go out to tell you what's happening. We want you to know what's happening in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And when something happens in Oklahoma City, we want you to know about it. And certainly I am happy today because I have with me, here in beautiful living colors, I have here the eminent woman of 1985. I know you must be excited, radio audience, because you will meet the eminent woman of 1985. What is your name?
Sylvia J. Williams.
Mrs. Sylvia J. Williams. I would like to congratulate you, and people have been telling me about what you wore when you were crowned the eminent woman of 1985. They said you were beautiful. Would you just describe that dress for me?
It was a two-piece, beaded and long.
Two pieces, beaded and long.
And orchid.
And it was orchid. That is just wonderful. I understand that the eminent woman pageant is sponsored by the Gamma Epsilon chapter of the National Sorority of Phi Delta Kappa Incorporated. I need to know who is the grand bacillus, who is the bacillus of the eminent woman, Mrs. Williams.
Dr. Ruth W. Fain.
Dr. Ruth W. Fain, isn't that wonderful? I know Dr. Fain is a lover of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, and she always say we judge ourselves by what we feel capable of doing, while others judge us by what we have already done. That is just wonderful. Now, how did you become involved in the Eminent Woman pageant for this year?
First, Mrs. Fain asked me if I would like to some years ago, and I told her I wasn't certain about it. So I didn't know anything more about it until I received a letter from her. from the sorority, stating that I had been asked to participate.
I understand that each lady that participates in the most eminent women of Oklahoma City must have demonstrated patience, perseverance, and fidelity. They must have made a worthy contribution to their community. And I would like to congratulate you for doing that. What church are you a member of?
I'm a member of Tabernacle Baptist Church.
Oh, you're a member of Tabernacle Baptist Church. That's a church that's been in news. It has really been in news for the past year, 2 years, and certainly you are still with the Tabernacle.
Right.
You're there. Who is your pastor now?
We don't have a pastor.
You don't have a pastor. I know all of those preachers down in Grayson, Oklahoma, and Hoffman and Clearview. I have some good news for you. Tabernacle Baptist Church does not have a pastor, but I will have the ex-pastor of Tabernacle Baptist Church here today because he told me that he would be here, and when Dr. Clarence Davis tells me something, I know he's telling me the truth. Now, what do you do at Tabernacle Baptist Church?
I am presently I sing in the choir.
You sing in the choir?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm a member of WMU.
The WMU? What's that?
That's the Women's Missionary Society.
Okay, you're a member of the Women's Missionary Society, and what else? Is that it? That's what you do at Tabernacle?
Right.
Okay, so here you met that part of the qualification. Now, what are you involved in your community?
Oh, I'm in real estate.
Oh, you're in real estate? Well, that is just wonderful. You sell real estate to anybody that wants to buy?
That is right.
How's business?
Slow.
A business, so my business is slow too. I'm in the marriage consultant business. I decided to go back in that business. I was in it, and then a man from California became president of the United States, and my business just went down. But I believe that President Reagan will be able to hear me now, and I believe that something will happen. I don't know. People are too broke to get a divorce, and they aren't able to afford my services. Now, you are involved in real estate. Where is your office located? Real estate.
First, I want to give you the name of my company.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
The Bluebird Realty Company.
The Bluebird Real. Wait a minute. The name of your company is the Bluebird Realty Company?
Right.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, tell us all about your company.
The address is 2135 Northeast 19th.
2135 Northeast 19th.
Yes.
Now, you sell houses?
Right.
What else?
Land.
Land?
Anything pertaining to real estate.
Anything pertaining to real estate.
Right.
Is it very hard to get real estate loans at this time?
Not so hard if the people's qualified.
If you're qualified.
Right.
So to qualify, you have to make what part of your salary? I mean, you have to have a salary that's equal to what in order to buy a piece of real estate? She doesn't want to tell me, ladies and gentlemen, because that's a private business. But she will tell you if you call her. And what is your telephone number?
427-9768.
As I look through the souvenir book here, you really have a lot of friends, don't you, Mrs. Williams?
I sure have.
How did you make all of those friends?
By just being nice to people.
Just being nice to people,
nice
and
to
you have people that will support you like they have supported you in the Eminent Women contest.
Right. That's right.
Now, Mrs. Williams, I know that you have a son that took off from his business. He's with Allstate Insurance Company and one of the top executives in that company. Now, I know he took off, came to Oklahoma City. Tell me about him.
My son, Rex Leon Barnett, and his family came here just for this purpose of being with me at the Eminent Woman. He is now present employed with Allstate Insurance. He is the executive position. He's what? He's a district manager of Allstate in sales and marketing.
And he took off and came to Oklahoma City to be with you.
That's right.
Let's talk about some of the other women that was in Eminent Woman of 1985. That was Mrs. Lena Russell, Mrs. Wilma Watts Scott, Mrs. Evelyn Athea Thorough, Mrs. Eleanor Thompson, Mrs. Sylvia J. Williams, Mrs. Marion Willis, Mrs. Helen Winston. And of all of those women, the number one was who now?
Sylvia J. Williams.
Mrs. Sylvia J. Williams. I would like to congratulate you for being the most eminent woman of 1985.
Thank you.
I know you want to thank all the people out in Radio Land that helped you.
I would like to. I would really like to thank all the people that participated in and helped me in this, because I could not do this by myself. It was impossible. But there were so many people that was nice enough to contribute, and I really appreciate that. And I just want to thank them again and again.
Thank you so very kindly for being my very distinguished guest today, as on this day in which I'm dedicating this program to the beautiful women and men in white. Someone has just reminded me that men are nurses too. Well, I want to dedicate this program to your men and women. I should have asked. I talked about the winner. I should have asked Mrs. Williams, who was the first runner-up and the second runner-up. Mrs. Williams, so would you mind telling me who was the first runner-up in the Miss Eminent Women?
Mrs. Frankie House.
Who was the second runner-up?
Mrs. Helen Winston.
Who was Miss Personality? Mrs. Personality.
Mrs. Eleanor D. Thomas.
Mrs. Eleanor D. Thompson. And who was Miss Congeniality?
Mrs. Evelyn A. Thor.
That's wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, I have here in the studio the eminent woman of 1985, the beautiful, talented business lady, Mrs. Sylvia Williams. And I would certainly like to congratulate Mrs. Frankie J. House, Mrs. Helen Winston, Mrs. Eleanor Thompson, Mrs. Evelyn A. Thor, and all of the beautiful, eminent women that participated in the contest in 1985. I'm inviting Mrs. Sylvia Williams to ride along with all of you that are queens and winners, and you know you're beautiful. You know you can dress up and look good just like people should. I'm inviting you to ride in that Soul Bazaar parade. Do you think you will be ready, Mrs. Williams?
I surely will.
You will be ready. Well, I'm telling you, they tell me you're ready. You fell out there in that beaded dress. Everybody was looking. And before you leave, I want to know something else about you. What did your husband think? What did your husband think?
He thought it was wonderful.
What is his name?
Henry Williams.
Well, Mr. Henry Williams, I would like to congratulate you for being the husband of the eminent woman for 1985. This is a Clara Luper radio show, and today's show is being dedicated to the women and men in white. So many times we overlook the things that are truly important. And what's more important in our society than the men and women that take care of us when we cannot take care of ourselves? Thank you wherever you are, the men and women in white, whether you are at St. Anthony's Hospital or Presbyterian, whether you are at the Oklahoma Memorial Hospital or the Children's Hospital, wherever you are, we just want to say thanks, because you might be at the Veterans Hospital, but wherever you are, we would like to say thanks today. Mr. George Singer of the House of Bingo invite you to play bingo every night except Sunday night. The House of Bingo is located at 3641 North Everett Street here in Oklahoma City. Do not leave your neighborhood to play bingo. Play bingo in your own neighborhood. Show some pride in yourself. And you can do it only by showing pride in your community. That's the House of Bingo, 3641 North Everett Street here in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. It's time now to prepare for the Easter holidays. Sir Charles the Tailor is located at 6225 Southeast of 15th Street in Midwest City. The telephone number is 733-7600. It's time now for you to get ready for Easter, and Sir Charles the Tailor can make your Easter bunny do a break dance. He is so good. Go out. Let him measure you. That's Sir Charles the Tailor, 6225 Southeast 15th Street. Now, he doesn't charge to measure you. Go out and see exactly how much it would cost to get you a tailored-made suit. As we think about the kind of world we live in, we know that we need to make it as difficult as possible for people to break into our homes. That's why the M&W Welding Company would like for me to tell you about their burglar bars. The M&W Welding Company is located at 2601 Northeast 23rd Street. The telephone number is 424-1482 here in Oklahoma City. That's a M&W Welding Company, 2601 Northeast 23rd Street in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Congratulations to Reverend and Mrs. John Reed. Reverend and Mrs. John Reed celebrated their anniversary at the Fairview Baptist Church today. And congratulations are in order. I would certainly like for Reverend John Reed to get in contact with me because there are some questions that we would like to ask the pastor on his anniversary. How does it feel for people to honor you? I'm telling you, I sure would like to see an anniversary for the teachers. Suppose all of the parents and the grandparents and the cousins get together and give the teachers an anniversary. That would be the day. I think the anniversary, though, should go to the principals, too. I think we should have an anniversary for the principals and for the assistant principal. And then let all the teachers talk. And let the students talk for the principals and the anniversaries. That would be a day. Mrs. Hunter, how would you like that? How would you like to see an anniversary for the teachers? Now, I don't think it's fair for the preachers to be the only one to get an anniversary. I think the teachers need to get an anniversary.
I really believe that too, Mrs. Luper, but it's a shade late for me. But if I could back up, I certainly would recommend it.
One thing that we have heard in the news this week is the fact that the teachers in Arkansas are now asked to take a test. We are for teachers taking tests, providing the preachers will take a test before they get on their jobs, providing the county commissioners and the representatives, the senators, and the superintendents. And for God's sake, we are for teachers testing if all board members would take a test before they go on their job. Now, this is quite interesting. Teachers spend 4 years in college testing, learning how to teach, and now the public say, you've got to take another test. Okay, we are willing to take a test. Now, I'm not afraid of any kind of test. Give it to me. But I also want you to give my representatives, my senators, and I would love to give a test to the Honorable Governor George Nye and all of the candidates before you can run for office. I would like to see a test given to the mayor. Let's give a test to the city councilman. Let's just give tests. I wanted to see a test given to the deacons, to the preachers. Won't that be a test? I'm waiting on Dr. Clarence Davis. Now, those of you that belong to Dr. Clarence Davis's church, and the name of that church is the Jesus Church. Now, that's a church, Jesus's church. Now, Jesus's church is in Oklahoma City, and I had Reverend Davis, Dr. Davis gave me the address of Jesus' church yesterday, but I left it at home because he told me that he would be here. So I would like to call out to Jesus' church and tell Dr. Clarence Davis that we are waiting for him. Don't you want to see the pastor of Jesus' church?
I certainly do, because is that a new name or a new church?
Oh, it's not a new name. Jesus was born in Bethlehem a long time ago.
For a church. I have not heard church named Jesus' Church.
Well, you're going to sure hear it today, because Dr. Davis is coming out here to tell us about Jesus' church, and I think that's terrific. So the people can say, well, I've been to Jesus. That's quite interesting. And if you aren't careful, that Jesus' church might take all of the church members in Oklahoma City. Wouldn't that be something if those AMEs would become members of Jesus' church?
Now, Ms. Luper, you're talking about be something. You mean Fifth Street Baptist people. Now, when all of those people join Jesus' church, something is going to turn over here in Oklahoma City.
It sure will turn over. Some people in Fifth Street wouldn't leave for nothing. Now, I've seen pastors leave, but there are a lot of people in Fifth Street that won't leave. But I'm telling you, they aren't going to leave, and certainly we are sincere. We're looking forward to talking to Dr. Clarence Davis today. And I would like to thank Dr. Davis for the interview yesterday. And in the interview yesterday, he told me that he would be here today. But being the pastor of Jesus' church, and it will be an affiliate Baptist church, I'm sure he's busy, but maybe he can get here before we go off the air. Letty, I would like to congratulate you for what the Zetas have done, what the Zetas did last week as they celebrated their Founders Day. And it all ended with a big party down to the Great Hall of the Myriad. Tell me about that party.
Yes, we did have a party Friday night to terminate our final Womanhood Month celebration. And I want to thank all of the persons who came out, because we had wonderful guests, and I want to thank all of the guests for coming. And I don't know if I had a chance to thank the church for letting us come and worship with them on last Sunday, but I do also want to say thanks to the pastor and the members of Greater Cleve for giving us the privilege to come and sit in their pews and worship with them on last Sunday. And he did deliver a beautiful, beautiful sermon. And I want to say thanks to that church.
Lady, I made a statement on radio last week that Reverend Monroe Woods preached like a Baptist preacher. Boy, some of those members of Greater Cleves really got upset about it. And I want to apologize to all of you if I said anything wrong about Reverend Monroe Woods. I thought I was paying him a great compliment, but you really told me something, and I want to apologize to you. That's the kind of person I am.
Well, Mrs. Luper, I do want to, I really want to thank you for saying you apologize to them. But, you know, when you said that Reverend Woods moved you, and you being a member of the Baptist church, I really thought that was a great big compliment, that you could go over there to that church, and the pastor spoke so well and elegantly that he would move someone at a Baptist church. Now, I thought that was really a great compliment. Really and truly I did. Because usually they say, oh, we go there and we do not be moved by the services, because they say it's more of a lecture. But not only was it a lecture, he gave us plenty good food for thought. And if it really inspired you spiritually, I'm just so delighted and happy that he did, because I know it was inspiring to me.
Someone called and asked, why do I talk about the preachers all the time? I talk about the preachers because the preachers make news. Now, I don't want you to get on me because these preachers are being fired by these churches. Now, I haven't been at any of the churches to vote to kick any preachers out. You did it. And if you didn't want your preacher out, you should have voted to get him out, or maybe you shouldn't have gotten him in the first place. So please don't call me and tell me you didn't like it because I say that Mount Carmel Baptist Church fired its pastor, because I say Tabernacle fired its pastor. I'm just only telling those of you out in radio land who have not been exposed to this information, that information. Now, as a preacher, you are a person that people look up to for leadership. And I think what we've got to do is to stop and evaluate ourselves. We can tell who's preaching in Oklahoma City because you can tell by the crowds. The people are going where they have good preaching, and when they get to a church and they have some good preaching and singing, they go back. So don't get down my back because you don't have nobody at your church. I didn't say nothing about the preachers. I only repeated what you did. You're the one that voted your preachers out, and that's good. I think a person should live in a country where they are free to vote one out. Now, Letty can't vote one out. She's a A or B. She just has to. Where do you get your preachers, Letty?
Mrs. Luper, you know, this has been quite a debate on the method and the way in which the Methodist ministers are placed or assigned to their charges. But we have a special...
Oh, I'm going to cut you off. I'm going to cut you off because the pastor is here. The pastor of Jesus's Baptist Church has just arrived, and I am so happy. Dr. Clarence Davis, welcome to the Clara Luper Radio Show.
Thank you, Ms. Luper. It's a pleasure to be here. And I must admit that you certainly have your way to make sure that your guests show up. Amen. I've had a lot of calls. People have called me and said, now, you're supposed to be on Ms. Luper's show because she said so. But I thank God for the privilege, Ms. Luper. Let me just say this before we even get started, that I did not arrive in Oklahoma City and hear about Clara Luper. I heard about Clara Luper when I was out on the picket line. It was inspiration because they were telling us that in Oklahoma there was a little lady that was leading the demonstrations. And so I really didn't come so much to talk about my ventures in the ministry as much as I did to let your listeners know that they are unaware of the quality of person that they have in the person of Miss Clara Luper. You have a great quality person, one who has dedicated her life to ensure that all, irrespective of their backgrounds, have equal access to every area of public endeavorment. And so I'm just very pleased to be here, to be available, and I'll answer as many kinds of things as I can. I will not get into any very personal things with
Well, Reverend, I wouldn't dare ask you anything personal because I wanted to talk first about those brilliant children that you had. Tell me about that son that has broken all barriers.
Praise God. Well, you know, that's Byron Davis, Reverend Byron Davis, I might add.
Oh, Reverend, I didn't know he was a minister.
Yes, he's been preaching now since July, I believe it was, of 1984.
Byron is preaching. How old is Byron now?
Byron, how old are you? Come over here.
Byron, I didn't know Byron was a preacher. Byron, how old are you?
18.
You're 18. How long have you been preaching?
For about 7 months.
Why did you start preaching?
Because the Lord called me.
The Lord called you. Now, you have seen all of the problems that your father have had, and you're a preacher.
Yes, ma'am.
Well,
when the Lord calls you, you can't do anything but answer.
Okay, now how do you determine whether the Lord has called you or not?
Well, I prayed and fasted, and the Lord showed me that he had called me.
How long did you fast?
I fasted for about 3 days, and I've been reading the Bible and praying.
What kind of preacher do you expect to be as you grow up?
A preacher for the Lord, following after the Lord.
Now, let's talk about the Byron in school. What are you doing in education?
I'm in high school, I'm a senior, and I'm the senior class president.
Oh, you know, they wouldn't elect a minister as president of a senior class.
Yes, they elected me.
The kids knew you were a minister and elected you as president of the senior class.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now, how are you doing scholastically?
Right now I'm maintaining a 4-point average.
Oh, what kind of average?
4 point.
You are making 4 points, you're preaching,
Yes, ma'am.
and you are president of your class.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, how are you doing in science? You made a 4 point, you made a straight A in science?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you do that?
Studying.
Oh, you're studying.
Yes,
You're
ma'am.
studying, so you made a straight A in science. Have you been in any science exhibitions?
Yes, ma'am. I was recently in the 1985 Science and Engineering Fair, and
What did you do in that fair? Nothing?
Oh, I won first place in my category. I'm going to be going to the state science fair, and I'm also going to be going to the international science fair.
How are you going to get to the international science fair?
Well, I won first place overall, and I'm going to be sponsored by the Oklahoma Publishing Company.
Oh, that's Mr. Gaylord. We'll sponsor you to go to the international science fair. What was your project?
NIM, a 3-dimensional computer-generated game.
Okay, that's quite interesting. So I don't know anything about computers, but I do know some questions to ask Dr. Clarence Davis. Doctor, how does it feel to have a son of such intelligence?
It really humbles one to have a son who has broken through the barriers. This was the first for Star Spencer, and it just simply humbles you to have a son like Byron. You know, he's 18 years old, Miss Luper. I have never had 1 ounce of trouble in his life. He has been a model young man all of his life, and I can truly say that I'm very proud of him. As all parents are, I'm sure, of their children, but I'm very proud of him because of the fact that not only has he seen the difficulties that are involved in my profession, but he has had the innate desire to fall after the Lord, to get right into the muddy water.
Well, that water's sure been muddy. I remember when I interviewed you before, you were the proud pastor of the Tabernacle Baptist Church. You became the first person that I have read about in the history of church revolutions to say thank the Lord when you were voted out. How did you do that?
Well, you see, the Bible tells us that all things work together for good to those who love God, who are the called according to his purpose. The people at Tabernacle, let me say this, I have had the privilege of being with them for 4 years and 10 months. And they are some of the most beautiful people that you can find. I think that even the critics of churches, especially black churches, had they seen the kind of fellowship and relationship that we had prior to, during, and after the vote, they would simply say that I believe those folk are Christians.
All right, now you're saying that those are beautiful people. These are the people that split from your church. These are the people that voted you out, and yet you're saying they are beautiful people.
They're beautiful people. You see, beauty is much deeper than the manifestations that so many people see. What actually happened at Tabernacle is that the Lord began to move me in a dimension of spirituality that Tabernacle and probably the average Baptist church was not ready for. And because
what is it that the Baptist church is not ready for, Dr. Davis?
Well, you know, the Lord was leading us into the full ministry. You see, the fivefold ministry, as identified in Ephesians 4, tells us that the Lord has given to the church pastors and teachers and evangelists and prophets and apostles, and that's what the church is built upon. Those are the ministries that the church should exhibit. Well, when we began to move in that ministry, people were sick. It just melted.
Okay, you
my
are
heart.
healing people, right? You are oiling people. You are anointing people, right?
Well, that's what the Bible says. The Bible says that if any are sick among you, let them call upon the elders, and they anoint them with oil, and the prayer of faith shall save the sick. And if they've committed any sins, they shall be forgiven them. That's the Bible. And that's what I did. I followed the Bible, the
And as a
prescription
result
of
of your following the Bible, the people say, we don't want you anymore.
Well, no, not exactly. What they really said was that the style of ministry that we see is not the style that we want to participate
Okay,
in.
but let's talk about where we are now. Let's talk about where we are now. Where are you?
Well, we are over at 2201 Northeast 15th Street in the old First Deliverance building, and the Lord has drawn a few people to worship Him in truth and in the Spirit. As you've already called the name, it's Jesus' church.
Can I say Jesus' Baptist Church? I want to be correct because I have 600,000 people out there listening to me.
Well, we are Baptists, but there should be nothing between Jesus and church. Jesus did not say upon this
okay,
rock.
now tell me, I need from you, Dr. Davis, what is the name of the church?
Jesus' church.
Now, how can I determine that's a Baptist church?
Well, you can determine it's a Baptist church by virtue of the fact that we're members of the National Baptist Convention, the State Baptist Convention.
Now, when you say the National Baptist, which Baptist are you talking about?
The only one that, well, I should...
No, not the only one. I'm with Field Street Baptist now. Okay.
It's the National Baptist Convention, USA Incorporated. Dr. Jemison is president.
Okay, now you remember I'm with Dr. Sams.
Yeah, I appreciate
Now, you
that.
got the Jesus' Church.
Yes.
Now, Dr. Davis, do you really think that the Jesus' Church will survive in Oklahoma City?
Well, not only will the Jesus' church survive, but Jesus' church, the church that Jesus has established here, I think is going to revolutionize all of the Baptist churches because they're going to have to do something. Their members are going to come to Jesus' church to be healed. Their members are going to come to Jesus' church to be delivered for security in the Lord. Their people are going to come to be saved because we're going to teach the full gospel.
Okay, now you're saying that we're going to come to Jesus' church. That means that many other people that belong to other churches now will come to Jesus' church. You're going to scare these preachers out here to death, Dr. Davis.
They've been scared ever since I hit town.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's not being arrogant. That's just a fact.
Okay, now how many members do you have in Jesus' church?
Well, you must remember we're only 2 weeks
you're
old.
2 weeks old. The baby is 2 weeks old. Now, Jesus' church is 2 weeks old. How many members do you have?
We have approximately 135.
Now, Dr. Davis, you're going to tell me that you got a 2-week-old church with 135 members.
Well, that's what the record says.
That's what the record says,
Yes.
135 members. Now, I'm coming out to Jesus' church, and I'm coming out there, and you can say what you want to. I'm coming out there to count heads.
Hallelujah.
Okay.
Now, you'll count more than that.
What am I going to count?
You'll count more than that, but I'm saying...
No, I
you're
am only
probably
saying
150.
that you have, if you have been in the business for 2 weeks and got 135 members, well, what does that say to other churches that have been here 50 years and don't have but 300 or 400 members?
Well, no, it really doesn't say anything.
It doesn't say anything?
No, I don't think so. And remember now, we're not attempting at all. We're not in any competition with anybody.
No, you aren't in any competition with anybody but the devil, are you?
That's right. That's
You're
right.
trying to get
Yeah.
rid of the devil.
That's right.
So people can go to Jesus' church. Is that right?
Well, you know, they don't have to come to Jesus' church. They can go where they want. I'm simply saying that at Jesus' church, we're doing it the way the Lord said do it. We're doing it in accordance with the Bible. We're not following the tradition of men. We're not concerned about what used to be, what your granddaddy did. We're doing it the way the Lord said do it, in accordance with His holy word. And I might add that for a 2.5-week-old church, because we start on a Wednesday, we are